The giant view screen on the bridge of the Earth vessel Defiance showed the approaching Arcturian ships. Ambassador Jack Miller straightened his uniform and took a deep breath. This meeting would change human history forever. "Are you nervous, sir?" asked Lucy Benson. The young communications officer monitored the incoming signals with careful attention. "Only a fool wouldn't be," Miller replied with a slight smile. "We're about to meet aliens who have ruled this part of the galaxy for thousands of years." The Defiance was humanity's finest ship, but it was built for peace. Its sleek white hull carried minimal weapons. 4 smaller escort vessels surrounded it, similarly designed for diplomacy rather than war. Captain Paul Ward entered the bridge. "The Arcturians are hailing us, Ambassador." Miller nodded. "Let's make history." The screen flickered, revealing a tall, blue-skinned alien with 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. Gold armor covered its shoulders, and numerous medals decorated its chest. "I am Grand Admiral Zexthar of the Arcturian Galactic Empire," the alien said in perfect English. "We welcome you to Imperial space." Miller stepped forward. "I am Ambassador Jack Miller of Earth. We come in peace and friendship." The meeting seemed to go well. The Arcturians invited Miller and a small team to board their massive command ship for a formal greeting ceremony. Despite some concerns from Captain Ward, Miller agreed. This was why they had come, to build trust. 4 hours later, Lucy Benson stared at her communications console in horror. Something was terribly wrong. The emergency channel from the ambassador's team had gone silent mid-transmission. Their last words were a warning. "It's a trap." "Captain," she called out, "I've lost contact with the ambassador's shuttle." Before Captain Ward could respond, the bridge rocked violently. Warning lights flashed everywhere. "We're under attack," shouted the weapons officer. "The Arcturian ships have opened fire." On the view screen, Miller watched as the Arcturian vessels released a barrage of energy weapons. One of the Earth escort ships exploded instantly. Another was cut in half, its crew spilling into the vacuum of space. "Return fire. Get us out of here," Ward ordered, but it was too late. Another blast hit the Defiance sending crew members flying across the bridge. Smoke filled the air as systems failed throughout the ship. "Their weapons are too powerful," the tactical officer reported. "Our shields are useless against them." Lucy Benson worked frantically at her station. "I prepared an emergency data burst. All our records of what happened here. I can send it back to Earth through the quantum relay." "Do it," Ward commanded as another hit rocked the ship. Lucy pressed the transmit button. The data would reach Earth almost instantly through quantum entanglement. The Arcturians couldn't stop it. "Escape pods," Ward ordered. "Abandon ship. Get as many people out as you can." Lucy helped injured crew members to the escape pods as the Defiance died around them. Through a viewport, she saw the Admiral's shuttle being pulled into the massive Arcturian command ship. Miller and his team were being captured, not killed. Their pod launched just as another explosion tore through the Defiance. Only 3 pods made it away from the dying ship. The Arcturians didn't bother chasing them. Such tiny vessels were no threat, and they would likely die in deep space anyway. But the Arcturians underestimated human survival skills. Lucy and 17 other survivors managed to repair their pod's damaged drive. It took them 3 weeks to limp to a nearby human research outpost. As she finally set foot on solid ground again, Lucy made a promise. "They think they've seen what humans can do," she whispered. "They haven't seen anything yet." Back on the Arcturian command ship, Ambassador Miller was brought before Grand Admiral Zexthar in chains. "Why?" Miller asked simply. The Admiral's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "Your species advances too quickly. You are unpredictable. Dangerous. The Emperor has decided you must be controlled before you become a true threat." Miller stood tall despite his chains. "You've made a terrible mistake." Zexthar laughed. "Your primitive world has seen our power now. When we arrive at your Earth, your people will surrender without a fight." Miller said nothing more, but in his silence was a warning the Arcturians were too arrogant to hear. 5 years passed since the Arcturus incident. On the Arcturian throne world, a junior intelligence officer named Vex Mol delivered his report to Grand Admiral Zexthar. The humans remain in their home system, Admiral. Our border patrols detect no activity beyond their Mars colony. They appear to have accepted their place. Zexthar's 4 eyes blinked with satisfaction. As expected, they are wise enough to know they cannot match our power. On the other side of the galaxy, deep within an asteroid field that orbited a nameless star, Admiral Frank Martinez floated in zero gravity. Through the massive viewing window, he watched as robots assembled the hull of a warship larger than anything humanity had built before. The Retribution will be ready next month, said the shipyard director who floated beside him. That makes 27 dreadnoughts completed. Martinez nodded. And the smaller vessels. 142 cruisers, 96 destroyers, and over 200 frigates, plus support ships and fighters. Martinez allowed himself a small smile. The Arcturians think we've been hiding. They don't realize we've been building. In the 5 years since the attack, Earth had changed. Countries once at odds now work together under the Earth Defense Alliance. Every factory on the planet produced ships, weapons, or supplies. Secret mining operations stripped Mercury, Venus, and dozens of asteroids for materials. Most importantly, humanity kept all of this hidden. Ships traveled without lights. Communications used quantum entanglement that couldn't be detected. New colonies were built inside moons and asteroids, rather than on planets where they could be spotted. In her lab on Europa, Dr. Kate Howard adjusted her equipment for the 100th time that day. Sweat beaded on her forehead, despite the cold. Her team watched nervously as she activated the shield generator. A small drone fired its laser at the shielded target. The beam hit the blue energy field and scattered harmlessly. Again, Kate said, "Full power." The drone's weapon glowed bright red as it fired at maximum strength. The shield flickered but held. Kate checked her readings and smiled. It works. The shield absorbs Arcturian energy frequencies and redirects them. We're ready for production. At the weapons testing range on Mars, Gary Walsh watched as his new missile streaked toward the target. The missile contained no explosives. It didn't need them. Instead, it carried a special device that created a momentary tear in space-time. The target, built to the same specifications as Arcturian hull armor, didn't explode when the missile hit. Instead, a perfect sphere of its center simply disappeared, leaving a hole large enough to walk through. "The phase shift warhead works," Gary reported over his comm. "One hit will breach any Arcturian ship, regardless of their shields." On Earth, in the underground headquarters of the Alliance, Lucy Benson stood before the Council. 5 years ago, she had been a junior communications officer. Now she was the head of intelligence. "The Arcturians remain confident in their superiority," she reported. "Their border patrols are routine and lazy. They believe we are still licking our wounds." The Council leader nodded. "And our agent? Any word?" Lucy's expression grew serious. "We received another transmission from Ambassador Miller. It was brief, but he's still alive and gathering information. He's identified the weak points in the Arcturian defense network." Around the table, Council members exchanged looks. What the Arcturians had done to Miller was unforgivable, but his sacrifice was providing vital intelligence. "How much longer?" someone asked. Admiral Martinez, who had returned from the shipyard for this meeting, answered, 3 months. We need 3 more months to complete the fleet and train the crews." Lucy displayed a star map showing Arcturian territory. Miller's last message indicated they're planning to send a formal delegation to Earth soon. "They expect us to surrender officially and become a subject world." Martinez's face hardened. They'll find something very different waiting for them. In his prison cell in the Arcturian capital, Jack Miller etched another mark on the wall. 5 years of captivity. 5 years of torture and questioning, but also 5 years of watching, listening, and learning. He smiled as he heard the guards changing shifts. Soon, very soon, the Arcturians would learn what it meant to make an enemy of humanity. Jack Miller's bones ached as he crawled through the narrow maintenance duct. 5 years in Arcturian prison had made him thin enough to fit in spaces never meant for humans. The air smelled of oil and metal. Every few meters, he stopped to listen for guard patrols. His makeshift communicator, built from parts stolen over months, weighed heavily in his pocket. One transmission. He would get one chance to send Earth everything he had learned. The central communications hub of the prison lay just ahead. Miller had memorized the guard schedules. He had 3 minutes to send his message before the next patrol. He reached the access panel and carefully removed it. Inside, thousands of wires connected to blinking lights and humming machinery. With practiced hands, Miller attached his device to what he knew was an outgoing transmission line. His fingers trembled as he typed his message. Location of Arcturian fleet bases, patrol routes, shield frequencies, weapon specifications, the names of other captured species who might become allies. Everything he had gathered through years of careful observation and conversation with other prisoners. Miller hit send. His device began to pulse with blue light. 90 seconds to complete transmission. Suddenly, footsteps echoed in the corridor outside. A guard patrol early. Miller's heart raced. 70 seconds remaining. The footsteps grew louder. 50 seconds. The door to the communications hub slid open. 30 seconds. Sector clear, a guard's voice said. The footsteps moved away. 10 seconds. 5. 0. Miller's device beeped once, signaling completion. He quickly disconnected it and slipped back into the duct, replacing the panel behind him. On Earth, Major Samantha Reed stood before Admiral Martinez in the war room. Her black uniform bore the insignia of Special Operations. Ambassador Miller's transmission was received in full, she reported. It contains critical intelligence on Arcturian defenses, far more than we hoped for. Martinez studied the data on his screen. This changes everything. We can't wait any longer. Miller has given us the advantage we need. There's more, Reed said. He included his own location and security details of the prison. He's asking for extraction. Martinez frowned. A rescue mission deep in Arcturian space. It's too risky. Reed stood straight. With respect, sir, we owe him this chance. My team can do it. After a long moment, Martinez nodded. Prepare your team. But understand, this cannot compromise our main offensive. 2 weeks later, Reed's stealth ship approached the prison moon. The vessel, covered in light-absorbing materials, and with its engines running silent, was invisible to Arcturian sensors. Their patrol ships follow the same pattern Miller described, said the pilot. We have a 4-minute window to land. Reed checked her weapon, a new design that fired projectiles that phased through shields. Her team of 6 did the same. Remember, she told them, this is extraction only. No unnecessary engagement. The ship landed silently on the dark side of the prison moon. Reed led her team through an access point Miller had identified in his message. Inside, they moved like shadows through dimly lit corridors. 2 guards appeared around a corner. Reed's team dropped them with silent shots before they could raise an alarm. They reached the high-security wing where Miller was held. Reed hacked the door panel using codes from Miller's transmission. The door slid open. Inside, Miller looked up from his small cot, his face thin and scared but his eyes alert. You came, he said simply. Humanity doesn't leave its people behind, Reed replied. As they prepared to leave, Miller stopped them. There are others. In the East Wing, representatives from worlds the Arcturians have conquered. If we free them, they could become valuable allies. Reed checked the time. It's not in the mission parameters. Miller's eyes were intense. Trust me, we need them. Reed made her decision. East Wing. Fast. They freed 12 aliens from 6 different species. Each had been a leader or scientist on their world before capture. "The Arcturians think they've broken us," said a tall, gray-skinned alien named Krell. "They are wrong." As their ship lifted off, alarms finally blared across the prison complex, but by then they were already accelerating toward the jump point and freedom. Miller watched the prison moon shrink behind them. "Now the real war begins," he said quietly. Admiral Frank Martinez stood on the bridge of the EDA Vengeance. The massive ship was over 2 kilometers long, the largest warship humanity had ever built. Its black hull absorbed light, making it seem like a hole in space. Only the blue glow of its engines revealed its presence. Through the viewport, Martinez watched as hundreds of ships moved into formation. Destroyers, cruisers, frigates, and massive dreadnoughts like the Vengeance. Humanity's war fleet was finally complete. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said his executive officer. Martinez nodded. "Signal the fleet. Operation Reckoning begins now." The first target was a small Arcturian outpost on the edge of their empire. The planet Velosphore had been conquered a century ago, its native population forced to mine rare minerals for their Arcturian masters. The Arcturian commander on Velosphore was enjoying his morning meal when the alarm sounded. "What is it?" he demanded as he entered the control room. "Unknown ships appearing at the edge of the system," replied his sensor officer. "Many ships." The commander frowned. "Pirates, perhaps." "Show me." The display screen activated, showing hundreds of black ships moving in perfect formation toward the planet. "Impossible," whispered the commander. "Contact Imperial Defense Command immediately." But before they could send a message, all communications went dead. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Lucy Benson reported, "Their communications have been jammed. They can't call for help." Martinez nodded. "Launch fighters. Target military installations only." Lieutenant Dan Cooper sat in the cockpit of his fighter. Around him, hundreds of other fighters launched from their carrier ships. They formed up into attack squadrons and accelerated toward the planet. "Remember the plan," Cooper told his squadron. "Military targets only. No civilian casualties." The Arcturian Defense Force on Velosphore consisted of 30 outdated fighters and 2 small cruisers. They launched to meet the human attack, expecting an easy victory despite being outnumbered. Cooper watched as the Arcturian fighters approached. "Hold fire until my mark," he told his squadron. The Arcturians fired first. Energy beams lanced out toward the human fighters. "Shields holding," reported one of Cooper's pilots. "Their weapons can't penetrate." "Now," ordered Cooper, "show them what we've learned." The human fighters returned fire. Their new phase-shift weapons cut through Arcturian shields like they weren't there. In less than 2 minutes, all 30 enemy fighters were destroyed. Cooper led his squadron toward the planet's surface, targeting the main Arcturian base. Their missiles created perfect spherical holes in buildings and defense installations, disabling them without causing them to explode and harm nearby civilian areas. In orbit, the battle was equally one-sided. The human cruisers surrounded the Arcturian ships, their new weapon systems easily overwhelming the enemy defenses. On the ground, Arcturian soldiers threw down their weapons and surrendered as human troops landed. The native Velotians watched in amazement as their oppressors, who had seemed invincible for generations, were defeated in hours. The Arcturian commander was brought before Martinez on the bridge of the Vengeance. "This is impossible," the commander said, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly in distress. "Humans are primitives. You cannot have this technology." Martinez looked down at him coldly. 5 years ago, you attacked our diplomatic mission without provocation. You murdered our people and took our ambassador prisoner. Did you think we would do nothing?" "The Empire will crush you," the commander insisted. "This is one small outpost. The Imperial fleet will destroy you." Martinez smiled. "Try to contact your fleet. We're not jamming communications anymore." The commander used the communication terminal. His message went through, but there was no reply. "What have you done?" he asked, fear in his voice. While we attacked here, other human fleets hit 6 more of your outposts. Simultaneously, all were liberated with minimal casualties. The commander sank to his knees. It's not possible. Among the liberated Velusians, word spread quickly. The humans had come not as conquerors, but as liberators. They offered medicine, food, and restored the planet's self-government. The Arcturians thought they knew what humans were capable of. Martinez told the Velusian leaders. They were wrong. News of the human victories traveled faster than the Empire could suppress it. For the first time in centuries, the Arcturian Empire faced something it did not expect and could not control: hope among its subject worlds. Grand Admiral Zex Thar stood before the Emperor of the Arcturian Empire. The Grand Throne Room, usually filled with courtiers and nobles, was empty except for the military high command. The mood was grim. "You promised me these humans were no threat," the Emperor said coldly. His 6-fingered hand tapped on the arm of his crystal throne. Zex Thar bowed low. "My Emperor, I accept full responsibility for underestimating them. But now we will crush them. I have ordered our 3rd Fleet to destroy their colony in the Proxima Centauri system." The 3rd Fleet? Our most powerful battle group. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "Yes, my Emperor. Over 200 warships, including 5 super dreadnoughts. The humans cannot possibly stand against such power." In the Proxima Centauri system, Commander Mary Johnson received the warning from Earth's long-range sensors. A massive Arcturian fleet was heading directly for the colony. Johnson was in charge of defending humanity's first major colony beyond the solar system. Proxima Centauri, nicknamed New Hope, was home to over 50,000 human colonists. "They're sending their 3rd Fleet," Johnson told her officers in the command center. 200 ships against our defensive force of 70. "Should we evacuate the colony?" asked her second-in-command. Johnson shook her head. "No. Admiral Martinez knew they would target this colony. That's why he assigned us these specific ships and weapons." She pointed to the system map. "And why he ordered us to prepare these defenses. For 3 months, human engineers have been working in secret, placing special devices throughout the asteroid belt that surrounded the system. They had also seeded the radiation belts of the gas giant Proxima with automated weapons platforms." "The Arcturians expect us to fight like they do," Johnson said. "But we won't." 2 days later, the Arcturian 3rd Fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. The massive ships moved in tight formation, their weapons charged and ready. Admiral Calvor, commander of the 3rd Fleet, looked at the sensor readings with satisfaction. "I see only a small defensive fleet. This will be over quickly." His fleet moved forward, pushing toward the colony planet. As they approached the asteroid belt, Admiral Calvor ordered his ships to slow down. "Scan for traps," he commanded. The scans showed nothing unusual, just dead rocks floating in space. The fleet continued forward. Commander Johnson watched from her flagship, the Defiant Asterisk. "They're entering the kill zone. Activate the gravity bombs." Throughout the asteroid belt, hundreds of small devices activated. Each created a powerful, focused gravitational pulse. The asteroids, previously floating harmlessly, suddenly accelerated toward the Arcturian ships. On the Arcturian flagship, alarms blared. "Incoming objects," shouted the sensor officer. Thousands of them. The asteroids, some as small as cars and others as large as buildings, slammed into the Arcturian ships. Their energy shields, designed to stop weapons fire, did little against the massive kinetic impacts. 30 enemy ships destroyed, reported Johnson's tactical officer. "Their formation is breaking up." The Arcturian fleet scattered, trying to avoid the asteroid barrage. This was exactly what Johnson had planned for. "They're entering Phase 2 position," she said. "Activate the radiation belt weapons." Hidden platforms in the radiation belt of Proxima he powered up. They didn't fire normal weapons. Instead, they emitted powerful electromagnetic pulses specifically tuned to the frequency of Arcturian shield systems. Throughout the Arcturian fleet, shield generators overloaded and failed. Ships suddenly found themselves defenseless. "Now," ordered Johnson, "all ships, attack pattern Omega." The human fleet, which had been holding position near the colony, surged forward. Though outnumbered, their ships were faster and more maneuverable. With the enemy shields down, their phase-shift weapons tore through Arcturian hulls with ease. Admiral Calivor watched in horror as his mighty fleet was torn apart. "Retreat," he ordered. "All ships, emergency jump out of the system." Only 87 of the original 200 Arcturian ships managed to escape. The rest were destroyed or captured. As the human crews celebrated their victory, Commander Johnson sent a simple message to Earth: Proxima secure. The Third Fleet is no more. In the Imperial Palace, Grand Admiral Zexthar received the news with disbelief. "Impossible," he whispered. "The Third Fleet, defeated." The Emperor rose from his throne, his face a mask of cold fury. "You have failed me for the last time, Admiral." News of the Third Fleet's defeat spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The Arcturian Empire tried to suppress the information, but it was too late. On a dozen worlds, people whispered about the humans who had done the impossible. Captain Richard Taylor guided his ship, the Explorer through the dense nebula. Behind him followed the diplomatic vessel carrying Olivia Martinez, Earth's chief negotiator. Their mission was perhaps the most important yet, to meet with representatives of other species who wished to ally with humanity. "Are you sure this is the right place?" Olivia asked over the comm. "I can't see anything but gas clouds." Richard checked his instruments again. "These are the coordinates Ambassador Miller provided. The nebula helps hide the meeting from Arcturian sensors." Suddenly, ships began to appear on their sensors. Not one or two, but dozens, each of different design and origin. "It worked," Richard said softly. "They actually came." The meeting took place aboard a massive ancient ship belonging to the Valerians, one of the oldest species in the galaxy. Inside a great chamber with walls of living crystal, representatives from 12 different species gathered around a circular table. Krell, the gray-skinned alien rescued alongside Miller from the Arcturian prison, made the introductions. "The Valerians," he said, pointing to tall, willowy beings with skin like polished silver. "Masters of faster-than-light technology." "The Corax," he continued, indicating small, six-armed creatures with large eyes. "Their artificial intelligence systems are centuries ahead of anyone else." One by one, Krell introduced them all. The insectoid Sith with their network of spies throughout the Empire. The aquatic Mura, whose biotechnology could heal almost any wound. The crystalline Tarl, who could communicate across vast distances with their minds. "For centuries, the Arcturian Empire has kept us divided and weak," Krell explained. "They conquered each of our worlds separately, ensuring we never united against them." Olivia stepped forward. "Humanity offers a different path. We don't seek to conquer or rule. We want partners, not subjects." "Pretty words," said the Valerian leader, his voice like chimes in the wind. "But can you truly stand against the Empire's full might? Yes, you won some battles, but they have thousands of warships, millions of soldiers." Richard activated a hologram showing the human fleet. "We have more ships being built every day. Our technology now surpasses theirs. But you're right. Alone, even we might eventually be overwhelmed. That is why we need each other," Olivia continued. "Together, we can end the Empire's tyranny forever." The representatives talked for hours. Each species had suffered under Arcturian rule. Each had resources or knowledge to contribute to an alliance. The Valerians offered their advanced drive systems that could make human ships twice as fast. The Corax pledged their AI technology to coordinate the Allied fleets. The Sith provided detailed information about Imperial fleet movements and defense systems. By the end of the meeting, a new alliance was born, the Galactic Liberation Front. Its single purpose was to end Arcturian rule and free all subjugated worlds. As the representatives prepared to leave, The Mira leader approached Olivia. Her translucent body rippled with blue light as she spoke. "There is something you should know," she said. "The Arcturian Emperor has refused to acknowledge the threat you pose. He calls your victories minor setbacks and forbids anyone from speaking of humanity as a serious enemy." Olivia smiled. "His pride will be his downfall." Meanwhile, on the Arcturian throne world, the Emperor summoned his new Grand Admiral. Zexthar had been executed for his failures, his body ejected into space as a warning to others. "These humans have been allowed to interfere with Imperial business for too long," the Emperor said. "I want their colonies destroyed, their fleet broken, their homeworld reduced to ash." The new Grand Admiral bowed. "It shall be done, Your Majesty. The humans are merely primitives with a few stolen technologies. They cannot stand against the full might of the Empire." As the Admiral left to prepare the Imperial Armada, the Emperor looked out at the stars. For the first time in his long reign, he felt a flicker of worry. But he quickly dismissed it. After all, no power in the galaxy could possibly challenge the Arcturian Empire that had stood for thousands of years. How wrong he was. Over the next 3 months, the combined fleets of the Galactic Liberation Front won victory after victory. With Valerian drive systems, human ships could appear anywhere in the Empire almost instantly. Sith spies provided the locations of every Imperial fleet. Korak's AI systems coordinated attacks with perfect precision. System by system, planet by planet, the Empire began to crumble. Admiral Martinez stood on the bridge of the Vengeance now twice its original size after Valerian engineers upgraded it. Jack Miller stood beside him, no longer the broken prisoner but a hardened veteran of the war. "The time has come," Martinez said, looking at the holographic map showing their forces spread across the galaxy. "We're ready for the final push." Miller nodded. Arcturus Prime, the Imperial homeworld. For thousands of years, no enemy had ever reached the Arcturian homeworld. Its location was kept secret, its defenses were said to be impenetrable, and its system was protected by the largest concentration of warships in the galaxy. But the Sith had found it. The Koraks had analyzed its defenses, and now humanity would lead the assault. On Arcturus Prime, the Emperor received increasingly desperate reports. Half his empire was in open revolt. A third of his fleet had been destroyed or captured. The rest was scattered, trying to hold on to key systems. "Impossible," he muttered, pacing in his private chambers. How could primitives do this? His new Grand Admiral entered, his uniform torn and dirty. "Your Majesty, we've recalled all available ships to defend the homeworld. Over 500 warships now protect Arcturus Prime." The Emperor nodded. Not even the humans would dare attack here. At that moment, alarms began to sound throughout the palace. The Admiral rushed to the nearest communication terminal. "What's happening?" he demanded. "Ships," came the panicked reply. "Hundreds of ships just appeared in orbit. They surrounded the planet before we could react." The Emperor rushed to the window. In the sky above, visible even in daylight, hundreds of dark shapes appeared. Human warships, their weapons pointed directly at the palace. "How?" the Admiral whispered. "Our sensors saw nothing." On the bridge of the Vengeance Martinez gave the order. "Open a channel to the palace." The Emperor's face appeared on the main screen. For the first time in his reign, he looked afraid. "This is Admiral Frank Martinez of the Earth Defense Alliance and a Galactic Liberation Front. Your empire is finished. Your fleets are defeated. Surrender now and spare your people unnecessary suffering." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "Never. The Arcturian Empire has ruled for 10,000 years. We will never surrender to primitives." Martinez sighed. "I expected as much." He turned to Miller. "It's your show now, Ambassador." Miller stepped forward. "Emperor Zorkeleth, you don't remember me. I was just another prisoner to you. But I remember you. I remember every world you've enslaved, every species you've oppressed." Recognition dawned in the Emperor's eyes. "The human diplomat. You survived. I did. And I'm here to tell you that your reign ends today. But not through destruction. Miller nodded to someone off-screen. Across Arcturus Prime, the comm systems activated. Every Arcturian citizen heard Miller's next words. People of Arcturus, for too long your leaders have led you into endless wars of conquest. They've told you that you were superior, that you deserved to rule. Today, we offer a different path. Join the Galactic Liberation Front. Help us build a galaxy where all species are equal, where knowledge and resources are shared, where no one rules over others. Throughout the capital city, Arcturians looked up at the human ships in the sky. For generations, they had been taught that they were the most powerful species in the galaxy. Now their empire was crumbling, and the supposedly primitive humans had reached their homeworld. In the palace, the Emperor watched in horror as crowds gathered in the streets below. They were not panicking. They were not fighting. They were listening. Martinez turned to Miller. Do you think it will work? Miller smiled. 5 years in their prisons taught me something important about Arcturians. They respect strength above all else. We've proven ours. 2 hours later, the Emperor stood in his throne room as human soldiers and representatives from a dozen alien species entered. The once mighty ruler of the galaxy looked small and defeated. Jack Miller accepted the surrender. Outside, the citizens of Arcturus Prime watched as the symbol of the Empire was lowered from the palace spire, and a new flag was raised, the blue and green emblem of the Galactic Coalition, with Earth and Arcturus Prime represented as equal stars among many. Humanity's journey from a single world to the architects of a new galactic order was complete.